Hello, welcome to 道德经 Made Easy Again. Today we are getting into the first chapter. Before we do that, let's do a quick review of the previous video. In the first video, I shared with you what I think 道德经 is about in a very high level. To me, 道德经 describes the flow of Tao, which is that everything in this world comes from nothing to something and from something back to nothing. And this is a continuous flow. It is like the current in the ocean. Water flows in one direction, and at some point of time, when condition is met, water is going to switch its direction of flow and flow in the opposite direction. On and on, water circulate in the ocean. And this flow of current is a natural flow. It is not a flow that's created or ordered or imposed by a higher authority. Many people ask the question, if every something has to return to nothing eventually, then why is that every something has to be created in the first place? However, people ask this question in a different way. They say, if God or Heavenly Mother create human being, and human being have to die and return to God or Heavenly Mother eventually, then why is that human being have to be created in the first place? To me, this is like asking a flower, why do you have to blossom? If you have to wither eventually anyway, then why do you have to blossom in the first place? So the flow of Tao is not about have to, it's about it naturally does. Now we will get into the first chapter. Observe the mystic. This is how we observe the world. We observe the world with our five senses and with our mind. Whatever that is beyond our five senses and beyond the understanding and interpretation of our mind, we are unable to observe them. For example, when I observe myself as a person on earth, I can observe the physical aspect of me. I can observe the mental and emotional aspect of me. And I know when I appear as something on earth, as a person, then that is my birth. And when I physically disappear from earth, and that is my death. So this is the observation of myself. And this observation is a very limited part of the entire flow of Tao of me. And with this very limited observation, I define who I am, and I define birth and death. And this definition may be significant to me to some extent, but they may not reflect who I truly am, and they may not reflect the reality, the truth at all. And because we have very limited observation of the flow of Tao of ourselves, we also observe the world, everything in the world in the same way. So ourself, our life appear to be a black box, a mystery, and the world often appear to be a big black box and a big mystery to us. Chapter 1 leads us to bypass the limitations of the mind and gain insight into the big black box of mystery. Through this, we can have a holistic view of the flow of Tao. Now, let's start to uncover the mystery by observing the flow of Tao. Let's observe something. May this something be a flower, a bird, a thunder, a tornado, a happy feeling, or a sad thought. Every something follows the flow of Tao. However, They all follow its own flow of Tao. Because a flower definitely manifests differently than a tornado. Often we imagine Tao is an object that we can look for, we can point at and discover. Or we imagine Tao as a flow, and it is a fixed flow that everything in the world has to flow the same way. And we call this imagined object or this imagined flow as the universal flow or the universal truth. However, everything in this world actually has its own flow of Tao. Whatever we can point at and call it Tao, it is but the Tao, the principles, the way, or the pattern of something. And people may argue, even though the principles, the way, the pattern of every something are different, but the origin, the nothingness that everything originated from, is the same. So can we not point at this nothingness and call it Tao? But to me, this does not make a lot of sense, because how can we point at or point to nothing, right? If it's nothing, then there's nothing to be pointed at. Therefore, in the first chapter of Tao Te Ching, it explained to us that the Tao that can be indicated as Tao is not fixed Tao. When we observe the world and identify things with our five senses and with our mind, we give everything a name. However, names are different in different language. And even in the same language, a thing can be given multiple names. And names can evolve through different time and space. And the name we give to something may not be able to fully describe every attribute and quality of something. And even if we all agree to a name, this name can have different meaning to different minds. For example, let's now think of the color green. What color appeared in your mind now? Is it any color appeared on the screen? Or it's a completely different color? Therefore, in Tao Te Ching, it says that the name that can be identified is not a fixed name. The name that we can use to identify something, or our identification of something, is subject to change in different time and space and mind. In the beginning of the first chapter, we are told that to observe the mystic, we need to first recognize how our observations are often restricted by our minds. Now, let's observe the process of nothing to something and something to nothing again. So, nothing and something are both identifiers, and they are both names. Our mind tends to define the word nothing as nothing, nothing. And for lack of better word, Tao Te Ching used the word nothing to describe the formless, inexhaustible, immeasurable source of Tao. And this nothingness is the source, is the origin, it's the beginning, and it is the end of everything. Some call this the Holy Father. And in this nothingness, there is only divine oneness. Then, nothing gave rise to something, and the very first something, let's call it something one. And something one manifests something two, something three, and something n. And n stands for infinity. We usually use a point in a circle to represent the very first something. And this very first something creates yin and yang, that is two. And yin and yang further creates everything. So from something one, duality, relativity, polarity are created, and some call this something one the Creator, Heavenly Mother. From this, we can further understand how the world is created. So from the Holy Father and the Heavenly Mother, everything in the world are created. From 0, 1 arises, and 2, 3, and more are created. And from Adam, Eve was made, and their children are created. When we observe the world, we tend to see the differences. However, difference only exists in the world of manifestation. If we are able to see beyond the manifestation, we know that everything is essentially and fundamentally the same. In the world of manifestation, we see everything as separate entity and separate existence. But in the world of essence, everything is indivisible oneness and sameness. So the world of essence and the world of manifestation coexist in this world. When we observe this world, which world do we see? So the first mystic that we can observe is the indivisible oneness and the sameness of all of us. If we are able to observe the fundamental oneness and sameness of the world, we will then be amazed by the powerful creativity of Holy Father and Heavenly Mother. Because out of this nothingness, out of this sameness and oneness, unique and diverse things are created beyond our imagination. So the second mystic we shall observe is the great power of manifestation. If we are able to observe the first and second mystic, then we'll be able to observe the third mystic, which is the biggest mystic of the world. And what is it? We tend to think that nothing and everything are two different things, and they are not the same. Yet, the biggest mystic of the world is this: nothing and everything, they are not the same, yet they are not different. So this nothingness is like the ocean that gives rise to all waves. And all the waves are like everything in the world. So the waves could be gentle tides, or it could be dangerous tsunami. No matter what kind of waves they are, what kind of power it possesses, what names they are given, they are no different from the ocean. The tides, the tsunami, the waves, they are no different from the ocean. Therefore, the ocean is not different from the waves. The waves are not different from the ocean. So if we are familiar with the Heart Sutra, it tells us that form is not different from the void, and the void is not different from the form. They are not the same, yet they are not different. This not the same and not different is the mystic sameness of the world. Now, let's meditate upon this mystic sameness. You and I, we are not the same and we are not different. My dog and I, we are not the same and we are not different. The Buddha and I, we are not the same and we are not different. My heart and my liver, They are not the same, and they are not different. My joy and my anger, they are not the same, and they are not different. My life and death, they are not the same, and they are not different. If we are truly able to observe this sameness, then we'll feel a deep sense of wholeness, and we will have a deep sense of inner peace, and there will be no struggle, no conflict. And this is the mystic sameness. Many people would say, I seem to be able to observe myself in the world, and I seem to be able to intellectually understand the mystic sameness. But I don't seem to be able to feel this oneness and wholeness, and not even able to flow with the flow of Tao. Why? It's because we are unable to feel this invisible yet powerful nothingness within us and in the world, and therefore we are not able to feel this flow of Tao. So how can we tap into the flow of Tao, and how can we tap into this powerful nothingness within ourselves? Well, we know that for nothing to become something, it must create something one first. And for every something to return to nothing, it must return to something one first as well. Therefore, we know something one, the point in the center of the circle, is a portal from something to nothing and from nothing to something. So when we step into the mystic portal, we enter into the realm of infinite life source. And when we step out of the mystic portal, we enter the realm of infinite manifestation. So this mystic portal is the gateway to all mystery of the world. So this is my sharing about chapter 1. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much, and these are just my personal observation and personal realization. Thank you for watching.